Matthew 26, verse 47 to 56. The betrayal and arrest of the king. Matthew records the moment in which the long-anticipated conflict between the Messiah and the leaders of Israel reaches its decisive turning point. The events in Gethsemane are not random acts of betrayal or political maneuvering. They are the unfolding of the covenantal drama foretold in the law, the prophets, and the Psalms, bringing to completion the mission for which the Son came into the world. The arrival of Judas and the multitude. Matthew writes, open quote, "And while he yet spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and staves from the chief priests and elders of the people." Matthew 26:47. Close quote. Judas is identified not merely by name, but as one of the 12. The emphasis highlights the tragic irony of the scene. One who walked with Jesus, heard his teaching, and witnessed his works now stands aligned with those who sought his destruction. The presence of the crowd carrying swords and clubs demonstrates that the religious authorities viewed Jesus as a dangerous revolutionary. Yet, the narrative reveals the opposite. The kingdom he proclaimed was not advanced through violence or political uprising. This moment reflects the pattern of Israel's history, where the righteous servant is rejected by his own people. The betrayal fulfills the imagery found in Psalm 41:9. Open quote, "He that eateth bread with me hath lifted up his heel against me." Close quote. The betrayal is therefore not an interruption of the divine plan, but a step within it. The sign of the betrayal. Matthew continues, open quote, "Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, that same is he, hold him fast." Matthew 26:48. Close quote. The kiss, normally a sign of affection and loyalty, becomes the signal of treachery. Judas approaches Jesus and says, "Hail, Rabbi," and kisses him. Jesus responds with calm authority. Open quote, "Friend, wherefore art thou come?" Close quote. The address friend reveals the composure and sovereignty of Jesus in the moment of betrayal. He does not resist or attempt escape. The events are unfolding exactly as foretold. The attempted resistance. Matthew then records the reaction of one of those with Jesus. Open quote. "And behold, one of them which were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck a servant of the high priest and smote off his ear." Matthew 26, verse 51. Close quote. The disciples had earlier expected the kingdom to appear in visible power. Their instinct was to defend with physical force. Yet this response misunderstood the nature of his mission. Jesus immediately stops the violence. Open quote. "Put up again thy sword into his place. For all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword." Matthew 26:52. Close quote. The kingdom he inaugurates does not come through armed resistance or national revolt. His mission was not to overthrow Rome, but to bring the covenant story of Israel to its climax through his own sacrifice. The legions of angels. Jesus continues, open quote, "Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels?" Matthew 26:53. Close quote. The statement reveals his authority and divine sonship. A Roman legion consisted of thousands of soldiers. Jesus declares that heavenly armies are immediately available to him if deliverance were the purpose. Yet he deliberately refrains from calling upon them. His restraint demonstrates that his arrest is voluntary. The path before him is not forced upon him by human power, but embraced in obedience to the will of the Father. The fulfillment of the scriptures. Jesus explains the reason for his surrender. Open quote. "But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled that thus it must be?" Matthew 26:54. Close quote. Throughout the gospel narrative, Matthew repeatedly emphasizes fulfillment. The events surrounding Jesus are not isolated incidents, but the realization of what had long been foretold. The prophets spoke of the suffering servant, the rejected shepherd, and the righteous one delivered into the hands of sinners. The arrest in Gethsemane stands within that prophetic framework. Zechariah 13:7 echoes in the background. Open quote, "Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered." Close quote. Confronting the authorities. Jesus then addresses the crowd sent by the chief priests and elders. Open quote, "Are ye come out as against a thief with swords and staves for to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and ye laid no hold on me." Matthew 26, verse 55. Close quote. The statement exposes the contradiction in their actions. Jesus had openly taught in the temple courts, the very center of Israel's religious life. If he had been a criminal or insurrectionist, they had ample opportunity to arrest him publicly. Instead, they come at night with weapons and a large crowd. Their actions reveal fear of the people and the secrecy surrounding their intentions. The scriptural pattern. Matthew concludes the scene with a summary statement, open quote, "But all this was done that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled." Matthew 26:56, close quote. The scattering of the disciples completes the prophetic pattern. The shepherd is struck, and the sheep are dispersed. What appears outwardly as defeat is actually the necessary pathway through which the mission of the Messiah unfolds. The arrest marks the transition from his public ministry to the climactic events leading to the cross. Through this surrender, the covenant drama moves toward its fulfillment, where the old order centered in the temple and its system would soon reach its appointed end, and the work accomplished by the Messiah would stand as the foundation of the new covenant reality. In this moment in Gethsemane, the king does not resist. He submits. The betrayal, the arrest, and the scattering of the disciples all occur so that the scriptures spoken beforehand would reach their appointed fulfillment.